Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing my labor and delivery story time. By the time I upload this, it's going to be a month since I gave birth to my beautiful, precious baby girl. It's kind of unbelievable that it's literally been a month. Like, I just can't even comprehend it at some points, but it has been, and I wanted to make this video because some things happened through like not my pregnancy, but like the labor and delivery that I had no idea would ever be like an issue, kind of. I just never knew. So we're going to jump right into it. I had an appointment with, well, okay, I want to start off. I had a high-risk pregnancy because I was on a growth restriction. When we moved to Georgia, they did an ultrasound and they saw that my daughter, Avery, was really small for her gestational age. So she was like weeks behind on her gestational age in regards to like her size. So that was concerning, obviously. So we had to go in for really frequent ultrasound appointments, and I went in for an ultrasound appointment at 39 weeks. I was getting induced the week after, so I had an appointment May 15th with my ultrasound doctor, and then in the afternoon I had an appointment with my gynecologist. I want to say the appointment for the ultrasound was like 10 a.m. and then the appointment for my gyno was like 2:30 or 3. It was like around there. So in the ultrasound appointment, they always take your blood pressure and stuff like right when you came in. So they took my blood pressure and it was high. And that is already a concern because with high blood pressure, you can get preeclampsia, which is a huge thing. You can like die from preeclampsia and stuff. So that was a huge concern. And then we went into the ultrasound and they did the ultrasound and they saw that her stomach was measuring really, really small. So I was 39 weeks and her stomach was measuring 35 weeks. So when you're on a growth restriction, they usually induce you at like 37, 38 weeks, but I was in a growth restriction and then she got out of the growth restriction, so like she caught up to the weight that she was supposed to be, and then we fell back into the growth restriction at that appointment. So when I went in and spoke with the ultrasound doctor, he called my OBGYN and he said, ultimately it's your decision. Do I send her straight to the hospital, or do you want her to see you at her appointment later on today, and then you can ultimately decide that? And she said, send her over. That was the shock of my life. Like, we were not expecting that. Obviously, with that appointment, it was so scary. I left and I was crying, sobbing, calling my mom because we had made all the arrangements for everyone to come. Obviously, next week we have two dogs. We live alone in Georgia, so we had no one to take care of the dogs. It was just such a stressful moment. So we got home, we called my mom, we called my mother-in-law. They both caught flights that same day, and we came home and we finished packing my hospital bag. We left for the hospital to get induced. When I got there, we did the check-in process and they showed us to our room, changed into my gown. I wanted to say, continuously throughout the whole labor process, I had high blood pressure. It wasn't concerning enough that they wanted to give me medication, but it was concerning enough that it was higher than normal, and I'm 25. I should not have high blood pressure. And I had not had high blood pressure throughout my entire pregnancy. It was just towards the end. So we go into the room, we see my nurse, she checks my cervix. One thing I will say, getting your cervix checked, it is the most painful freaking thing in the entire world. Like, it was so painful, and I had no pain medication at this time, so it was like so bad. They checked my cervix. I was 1.5 centimeters dilated. That's not a lot. You have to go into 10 to actually start the push-in. So I had a long road ahead of me, and it was a long road. I want to preface that. It was a very long road. So they gave me the first medication, and the first medication is kind of like a tampon that they put into your cervix that basically induces you into like getting contractions and starting labor off and stuff. So that was so painful. I had a nurse and she got her hand, obviously she puts it in your hoonie, putting in the medication. So when she was putting in the medication, every time she would like slip her hand out, the medication would literally come out with her hand. And she was like, one more time, and like her one more time were like 7 times, and it's so painful when they're doing it. And she did it, whatever, they put it in, and my contractions started pretty like just really quickly after that, like just so like it was literally automatic. Started having contractions. At the beginning they were fine, where I was sitting up like I am now. I would be talking, the contraction would come, and I would breathe while I was having the contraction, and then I was good. So they progressively got more intense. That medication, I don't remember what the name is, but that medication they keep in you in your cervix for 12 hours. So I had that with me for 12 hours. I did not get any pain medication until I think like the maybe 11th hour of having it, where I was like writhing in pain and I just could not handle it anymore. Like it was too much. So at that point they literally offer you either a medication that they just like a pain medication they put through the IV that they give you, or you can just get an epidural at that point. I didn't want to get the epidural just yet, so I decided in the intravenous medication, and I will say it was great. I don't even remember the name of that one either. It was great. It was a great medication. I got like drowsy, all the pain went away just so automatically, and I was able to go to sleep. I hadn't gotten to sleep in like the 11 hours that I had been there because I was having the contractions, obviously. So that was great. So they gave me the intravenous medication and I felt great after that. I think I napped. So when the 12th hour came, the nurse came, took it out of my cervix, and I was good. They give you about a 1 hour, like a 1 hour break from medication after they take it out, and I just took the time and I slept. So while I was sleeping, a nurse came in and she gave me the pill, like a pill literally, I want to say probably half the size of a rice grain, and I drank the pill and I went right back to sleep. That pill, I was told, is to help soften your cervix. It has nothing to do like with inducing labor, just softening your cervix. So it softened my cervix. I went back to sleep. Literally, I want to say maybe an hour after they gave me that pill, I was completely knocked out. I was completely asleep, and out of nowhere, a gush of water comes out of me, and I go, and Audrey is asleep. My mom is asleep in the corner, and I'm like, oh my God, I think my water just broke. And my mom like jumps up. She's like, what? And I'm like, I think it just broke. And she's like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, like I had just gone to pee. There's no reason. So I call the nurse and I tell her like, I think my water just broke. I think I literally said it like that. I was like I didn't know how to say it because I wasn't even sure, but it was my water that broke. The nurse came in and she took me to the bathroom. She cleaned me up. She cleaned up the bed. I got a new nightgown because I will say it was a lot of water. You know, some people say that it's not like that. I had seen online that they're like, oh, it's not as dramatic as it seems like on like the movies and stuff. Like, oh, it's like for me, it was the gush of water. It was a bunch of water. So after that, I will say the contractions got 10 times worse. I think it's because like the water kind of served as like a cushion, but oh my God, it was so freaking painful. So at that point, I had asked for another round of the intravenous medication because it worked so well the first time, but the second time it didn't work. It didn't work at all. It literally did zip, nothing. And the nurse told me, she goes, sometimes it happens like at the second or third time that we give it to you, it just stops working. Like you just have not like there's nothing. So I think I was in hour like 16 of contractions and I had no other pain medication because that one didn't work, and I was just like trying to go through it. I was kind of nervous / scared of the epidural, so that's why I didn't want to get it, but I did want to see also like if I could do it just without it. I kind of wanted to see like if I could manage. I couldn't. The pain, okay, before they gave me the first injectable pain medication, they had to give me like this bag of saline water, and they just kept me on it because my contractions came like 5 minutes apart, like right when I was getting them, and that is not the gist. So they gave me that to kind of elongate them, was what I was told. Sorry, backtracked. Now we're coming back because I forgot about that. So at that point, the contractions were so hard. Like I can't even describe to you how painful it is, because people can tell you how painful it is, but unless you go through it, you're never gonna like understand how painful a full-on contraction is. Like I don't know. So I was getting the contractions, and it was like my whole body would get stiff, and just the tears would literally just pour out of my face because of how much pain I was in. And it was like my whole back, so much pressure, and it was just terrible. So I called my nurse and I told her that I was ready for the epidural just because it was like unbearable at that point. The epidural took like 2 hours more or less to come, and like I was just writhing in pain, and my nurse was like, I'm so sorry, like I can tell you have a high pain tolerance because you've taken so long like to ask for the epidural, but like I'm so sorry that this is happening and it's taking so long, but there's nothing that she can do. The anesthesiologist came in, and he was ready to administer me my epidural, and you kind of have to like crouch all the way down while they're putting it in. So I'm crouching, Audrey is with me, he's like holding my hands in front of me, and as he's starting to stick one of the needles in, I get a really bad contraction mid him putting the needle in. And if any of you guys know how a epidural works, you cannot move, because any small movement that they do with that needle, you can end up paralyzed. Like just a whole bunch of terrible things can happen, because it's sticking needles into your spine to basically numb you from your stomach down. So yeah, I was getting a really bad contraction, so I start crying, and I didn't move. I'm like, I can't believe it. I just stayed so stiff, and I got a really bad contraction, and the anesthesiologist was like, I'm not hurting you, it's not me, right? And then he looked at the screen, he saw I was having a contraction, because you have your belly hooked up to 2 different monitors. You have one for your contraction and then one for your baby's heartbeat, because they want to basically see that if when you're having a contraction, if the baby's heartbeat drops, because if it drops, then the baby is in distress, and if the baby is in distress, you need to have a C-section. So he looked at the screens and he saw I was having a contraction, and he basically just stopped and waited it out, like mid needle in my back. Everyone is just like, ugh. I had tears running down my face. I had boogers going just out of my nose down from like the pain, and like I wasn't moving. I was not gonna move. So once the contraction ended, he continued. He gave me the epidural. They patched me up. The epidural is painful also. I will say it hurts. Like it hurts a lot. Everything is just painful in pregnancy. Well, pregnancy, yes, and labor and delivery. Once you have your epidural, you cannot get up from your bed because your legs are completely numb and you can't walk. you can't. I was laid back down, and the nurse came in and put a catheter in me, which is basically like a tube they stick in your hooter, and like your pee will just go into like a little baggie, because you lose the function to know when you need to pee, or like to hold your pee basically. So she put the catheter in, and I will say with the epidural was magical. Felt nothing after that. I felt so good. I felt so great. After the epidural, you can't eat anything. You can't even drink water. You have to like chew on ice chips. So, and I was starving. I will say throughout the whole process of labor, delivery, and after, I did not eat until hours and hours and hours after I delivered. She was delivered at 5:43 in the afternoon, and I think I ended up eating like at 11 p.m. and we'll get into it. I had a 26-hour labor process, so I didn't eat for a full over 20, like a day and a half, we can say. After that, I had the epidural, and I was just feeling great after that. And I was feeling good. I had the epidural on my back. My nurse would come in and she would like put me into these different positions with the peanut ball and then like the circle exercise ball. She would put me in a whole bunch of different like positions that help your cervix like open up and like soften. They would come in every couple of hours and check my cervix and see, because you need to dilate, but also your cervix needs to like completely kind of like disintegrate in a way. So they would check my cervix to see how disintegrated it was, and it was doing pretty well. So at one point the epidural stopped working because I was ready to push her out, which I didn't realize. So when the contraction came, it was like a slow progressive process where I would feel pressure in my stomach, and the epidural doesn't help with pressure, it helps with pain. So there was nothing that I could do. I would feel pressure in like in my hooter. It was just pressure down there. And at one point it was just pressure and a lot of pain. So when the nurse comes in, I started the same kind of feeling that I had with my contractions before, where I would just breathe and crying because I just couldn't help it. The tears would just flood out. So I was crying. And then the nurse came in, she checks my cervix and she goes, you're ready to give birth. Her head is literally, like I'm touching her head. So yeah. She had to call the doctor and she was like, she's ready. Like, do I just have her start pushing? And he goes, yeah, like if her head is there, she needs to start pushing without me there. So out of nowhere, like 3 more nurses came in and I start pushing without my OB there. My OB came as like I was on my like 3rd push. So he's coming in, I'm like pushing, and when you push, you can't breathe, so you have to wait until you get a contraction, hold your breath and push, and then you have to like be pushing throughout your entire contraction, and then they give you a breather break when you don't have a contraction. Your contraction is coming so quickly that like you don't get a break. So he comes in and I'm like already pushing, so I pushed for literally 5 minutes. Literally 5 minutes, because I asked my nurse, she clocked it. It was a 5-minute pushing, and my beautiful baby was here. She came out automatically crying, and I don't want to tear up just because it's like, I don't know, it's like so emotional, like to think about like that first, you know, moment. She came out crying and she came out great, and they automatically took her out of me. Oh, while I was pushing, she was like halfway out, and the doctor was like, do you want to touch her right now? And I was like, no, not right now. That was just what came out of me in that moment. And all the nurses started laughing, so then I started laughing, and the doctor was like, she can't keep on laughing, she's like pushing the baby's coming out as she's laughing. So yeah, that was funny. The nurses hurry up and take off like the top part of my dressing gown. They grab her and they put her on me, and you know, she was on me the entire time while the doctor was like taking out my placenta and like making sure like my bleeding was okay. So I did tear on my right side. He gave me like 2 stitches, I think it was 2 stitches on my right side, that was it, which is great. And we did, I think I did like 2 hours of skin to skin with her. I did like, yeah, I think it was like 2 hours of skin to skin. She latched on like after the first hour, which is great. She is breast booby fed, so we're doing good with that. And yeah, that was my labor and delivery story. So after my 2 hours, they basically, another nurse came in and she just, so basically what the nurse told me was, if everything is fine with baby, like she comes out and she's like crying and we see everything as well, like she pinks up quickly after she comes out, we'll leave you with skin to skin with her. If that doesn't happen, we have to take her. So thank goodness she did all those things and we were able to do some skin to skin moments. Well, not like 2 hours of skin to skin. After that, another nurse came in and basically took like all her stuff, like her weight, her length, like all those things. So they did that, and while they were doing that, my other nurse came in and took out the epidural from my back and stuff. A little while after the epidural was out of me, they take you to the bathroom to basically like pee, clean you up, put you like pads and stuff, because you continue to bleed after, like you get your period automatically after you give birth. So I have, like you guys cannot see, but I have Lou down here literally staring at me. I haven't been doing the video because you say I'm the first baby. I'm the first one you had. You're right, baby. You are the first one Mama had. So they went to get me up from my epidural and they asked me if I felt comfortable getting up on my own, or I don't know, like they have this little machine that they put you on. I don't remember what it is. So you basically like stand up and then like you sit on a thing, they like close behind you and they like take you to the bathroom. I didn't feel comfortable standing, so like my legs still felt really weak. So I asked them to bring that and they brought it and they put me on it. I sat down on the toilet and I felt great. On the thing as they were transferring me to the bathroom, I felt good. But when I sat down on the toilet, I started to feel really faint. Like I started to feel, it was like this small twinge of lightheadedness. That's how it started. And then like I told the nurse, I was like, I'm feeling a little lightheaded. And she was like, that's normal. So as I'm sitting there, it just progressively got a lot worse. And I got really weak. I got really lightheaded. The nurse said I turned completely green. So a whole bunch of nurses like rushed in and I was basically on the toilet, like basically like lifeless. I was just like I couldn't move. I just kept on saying, like I was like, I don't feel good. My ears started ringing really, really, really loud. And so the nurses came in, they gave me another bag of fluids to like help. And they got a whole bunch of like cold wet towels and like laid them all on me. And I progressively just got a little bit better. And I was sitting on the toilet this whole time. This whole time, completely naked. Just about to pass out, basically. So I progressively got better. And, you know, we did what we had to do in the bathroom. And they put me on a wheelchair because they transferred you to like another unit. I don't know if it was just the hospital that does that, but they transferred me to a different unit. So we go to that unit and we stayed in that unit overnight. So I spent a total of 2 nights in the hospital, like with labor, with the after. They kept on checking my blood pressure. My blood pressure was still a little bit elevated. But everything was fine with baby except that her left ear failed the hearing test, which they think it was just liquid in her ear from birth. We have an appointment to get that checked out, but that is my labor and delivery story. Yeah, like that was just it. I will say the experience was painful, but it is true what everyone says. Like you kind of forget about how painful it is the first couple of days I was like, that was the most painful thing. But like you just progressively start forgetting. You just progressively throughout the days just continue to forget. And like I will say, like one of those times when I was having a contraction and like Aldrin was holding me, I just looked at him, tears running down my face, and I was just like, I don't think I can do this again. But then now, a month later, I'm like, I will do it all over again if it means to have like another like little baby. Like I get emotional talking about it just because you don't know the love that you'll have for like that tiny person. Like that moment that they like laid her on my chest, it was just like nothing else mattered, and it was just like an automatic like switch of like so much love for that little person. So yeah, she's like sleeping in her little chair. I'll give her a little cameo at the end because I was thinking she was gonna wake up while I was filming this, and I guess not. She's doing good. She's doing good. So yeah, that was my labor and delivery story time. I feel like it wasn't, I don't know, I feel like the experience of labor was so hard, so painful, but so incredibly rewarding that it's just like just such a crazy experience to like go through. But for me, the outcome is so worth it. Like I would do it 100 times over if it meant I get to have that little girl, you know, again. So I don't know, that's it. But let's give you a cameo of my girl. Here she is, mommy's little baby, mommy's precious girl. She's napping. Oh, there goes her brother. She's napping it up, my precious baby. So we're gonna do the outro with the star of my story. Oh my goodness. So let's do this quick. Thank you guys so much for watching. A lot of my videos are now gonna be mommy based, I feel. So if you like that, if you like that, make sure to tune in. And thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe down below, and leave a comment to what videos you guys want to continue seeing. If there's like a specific baby and mommy video that you want to see, put it down below and we can do it. We can do it. I'm a dog mommy too, to two poocheroons. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and Avery and I will catch you guys in the next one. Say make sure like and subscribe, because I'm a good Tina. Oh god, it's cha-cha time.